What if I told you that the blueprint for modern digital culture wasn't actually written in like some sleek Silicon Valley boardroom,
Right.
but instead it was written in a sweaty underground German warehouse rave back in 1994?
It's a wild thought, yeah.
It really is. So today we're doing a deep dive into some truly fascinating source material. We're looking at a late 2025 music culture column that was published by Monumental Movement Records, or MMR.
Right, the MMR column.
Yeah, and our mission for this deep dive is essentially a rescue operation.
I love that phrase for this.
Right, because we're basically going to pull 90s Euro music, so your Eurobeat, your Eurodance, straight out of the bargain bin of music history.
It's about time, on air.
Exactly. We want to rescue it from its, frankly, completely unfair reputation as just this frivolous, lightweight pop.
Yeah.
And we're going to reveal its true identity, which is a brilliantly engineered hybrid genre.
It's a rescue mission that is, long overdue. I mean, we have this collective blind spot.
Right.
Where we kind of condition ourselves to think that if something is instantly accessible, or if its primary goal is literally just to make you want to dance, it somehow lacks, like, structural integrity.
Right. Like, if it's fun, it can't be serious art.
Exactly. We equate heavy, slow, and somber with important, and fast, bright, and fun with disposable.
Oh, that's such a good point.
But to truly understand how we consume music, media, and even like short-form content today, we actually have to look backward at this very specific era.
Right.
Because the M&R column builds this really compelling case that Euro music was never just happy pop.
No.
It was born at the exact chaotic intersection of mass media broadcasting and underground club culture.
So if you're listening to this right now, I want you to just mentally time travel for a second.
Yeah, go back to the 90s.
Right. Think back to those massive, overwhelmingly catchy synthesizer hooks of the 90s.
Oh, you know the ones.
The ones that just lodge themselves in your brain within like 3 seconds and refuse to leave. By the end of this deep dive, I promise you are going to hear the engineering behind those tracks in a completely different way.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because where do we even begin with a genre that feels like it just suddenly hijacked the global airwaves overnight?
We begin by looking at the delivery mechanism.
Okay.
Because in the late 1980s and early 1990s, the entire infrastructure of European mass media went through this dramatic shift.
Right. It was a huge change.
Yeah. Radio stations began rapidly expanding their programming to include, like, dance music-only channels. And this is a crucial pivot point in cultural history.
Right.
Previously, if you wanted to hear heavy electronic dance music, you basically had to physically go to a nightclub at 2 in the morning.
Right. You couldn't just tune in on your drive to work.
Exactly. But with stations like Radio NRJ in France
Oh, yeah.
and Radio 538 in the Netherlands leading the charge, dance music was effectively turned into a public good.
Wow.
It was broadcasting straight into family living rooms, supermarkets, and car stereos in the middle of the afternoon.
So they were basically piping the nightclub directly into the family minivan.
That's exactly it.
And it wasn't just audio, right? Because the source material puts a huge emphasis on the visual packaging that happened right around the same time.
Yes, the visual side was massive.
MTV Europe launched in 1987, and suddenly, this music had a face.
Right.
You had acts like Real McCoy, Culture Beat, and 2 Unlimited. And they weren't just, showing up in jeans and T-shirts.
No, not at all.
These were high-budget, incredibly sharp music videos. They presented this highly stylized, futuristic visual aesthetic that completely matched the synthetic perfection of the music itself.
Yeah, and the visual component was the accelerant here.
How so?
Because these acts were so sonically polished and visually striking on MTV Europe, it created this massive reverse import effect.
Oh, right.
Yeah, European dance tracks, which traditionally just stayed in Europe, suddenly crossed the Atlantic. They started smashing right into the upper tiers of the U.S. Billboard charts.
It's crazy.
And it was a truly global phenomenon, too. Like, over in Japan, this exact same sound crossed over through major radio networks like J-Wave and Bay FM.
And Japan took it a step further, didn't they, with the Super Eurobeat series?
Oh, absolutely.
Because the Avex label basically tied the music directly to a physical movement.
Yeah, the para-para dancing craze.
Yeah, right.
For those trying to picture it, para-para is this highly synchronized, fast-paced style of club dancing. It relies on very specific, choreographed arm and hand movements that perfectly match the rigid, high BPM structure of Eurobeat tracks.
Wow.
And Avex managed to link this underground club craze directly to mass media. They took that hyperkinetic energy and plastered it across mainstream Japanese TV commercials.
You know, I've always thought of this tactic as an elaborate bait and switch.
Oh, definitely.
Like, it's almost like sneaking vegetables into a kid's meal.
That's a great way to put it.
You think you're just getting this bright, upbeat TV commercial jingle like a harmless, catchy tune to sell soda or cars? But you're actually being fed raw, unadulterated dance culture. It's just brilliant marketing.
And what's really fascinating here is how this mass media expansion completely inverted the traditional power dynamics of the music industry.
Wait, how did it invert it?
Well, because of MTV and these massive radio networks, producers realized they could bypass the traditional club DJ entirely.
Oh, wow.
They didn't need to press a white label vinyl record, hand it to a DJ, and pray the crowd liked it.
Right, skip the middleman.
Exactly. They could broadcast a finished visual product directly to millions of consumers. And this ushered in a fiercely producer-driven era.
Meaning the architects in the studio were the ones actually pulling the strings, not like a group of musicians jamming in a garage.
The studio was everything. The MMR column highlights specific powerhouses here. You had groups like Master Boy, which was entirely driven by producers Tommy Schley and Rico Zabler.
Okay.
Or the group Erotic, which was engineered by producer David Brandis.
Right.
These weren't organic bands in the traditional rock sense. They were highly calculated, meticulously crafted studio projects.
So they're building it from the ground up.
The producers would build the synthetic backing tracks, write the hooks, and then bring in specific vocalists like Liane Lay or rapper Richard Allen Smith.
Ah, to act as the face of it.
Exactly, the face and the voice of the project. It was basically industrial-scale music manufacturing designed to dominate global airwaves.
Okay, hold on. I have a really hard time reconciling this part.
Why is that?
Well, if this music was so highly manufactured, if it was perfectly polished and focus grouped for daytime radio and Japanese TV commercials, how on earth did it survive in the actual underground?
That's a good question.
Because we're leaving the sunny Billboard charts now and descending into the dark, sweaty clubs, and those two environments feel completely at odds.
They really do.
Like if a DJ drops a pop radio hit in the middle of a gritty warehouse party at 3 in the morning, they usually get laughed out of the room, right? The crowd turns on them.
You would certainly assume so. It feels like this massive contradiction.
Yeah.
But to understand why the underground embraced it, we have to look at the genre's genetic code.
Okay.
This sound didn't originate in a corporate boardroom. Its roots trace back directly to Italo, Disco, and Hi-NRG tracks that were born in underground gay clubs in the 1980s.
Let's pause and define that for the listener who might not be familiar.
Sure.
When we say Hi-NRG, like the track No Police by Ziggy, or Serge Gobin, which the source mentions as a prime example, what does that actually sound like?
Okay, imagine incredibly fast tempos, usually pushing like 130 beats per minute or more.
That's fast.
Very fast. And you have these relentless, driving electronic bass lines that pulse in octaves, creating this feeling of constant forward momentum.
Right.
It is music built specifically for physical endurance, for sweat, and for emotional release on a crowded dance floor. That Hi-NRG lineage provided the foundational muscle for 90s Euro music. So when the 1990s hit, that aggressive foundational sound collided head-on with a massive illegal rave explosion happening all across Europe.
And the rave scene was definitely not daytime radio.
Oh, no.
We're talking about massive, heavy, industrial-scale parties and abandoned warehouses and, like, open fields.
The scale was unprecedented.
Yeah.
I mean, in Germany, you had colossal events like the Love Parade and May Day festivals. And Euro-flavored tracks weren't just playing at these events, they were dominating the main stages.
Really?
Yeah. Meanwhile, in the UK, the sound infiltrated mid-90s garage sets and morphed into subgenres like hardbag.
Hardbag, right.
Which basically took the aggressive four-on-the-floor beat of Euro and stripped away the pop sugar, leaving just this bouncing, heavy club track.
Okay.
And in the Netherlands, the lines completely blurred between Euro music, speed garage, and hard trance.
I'm still pushing back a little here, though.
Okay, go for it.
I understand the lineage, but a polished MTV track still feels too clean for a German warehouse. Are you really telling me the exact same musical DNA powered both?
The contradiction you're pointing out is exactly what the MMR column identifies as Euro music's absolute superpower.
It's a superpower.
Yes. It was never just happy music. Underneath those bright, sugary, commercially viable melodies, it maintained a heavy, physical underbelly.
Ah, I see.
The kick drums hit incredibly hard. The bass synths were thick and aggressive. And as the 90s progressed, this heavy underbelly was pushed to the forefront.
So it got darker.
Exactly, birthing subgenres like dark Euro and industrial Euro.
Yeah.
You had boundary-pushing artists like Cosmic Gate and Scooter who proved that this musical framework could be incredibly punishing.
Wow.
They showed that a track could feature a catchy vocal hook and still command a warehouse dance floor with absolute authority.
So it actually had teeth. It wasn't just bubblegum, it was bubblegum wrapped around a brick.
I love that analogy.
But from a purely technical acoustic standpoint, how did they pull that off? Because a 3-minute radio edit and a 6-hour underground club set are structurally completely different beasts.
They are. And that brings us to the deep structural clash at the very heart of this genre.
Okay.
On one side, you have the producer-driven Euro music designed for mass media. This format is entirely focused on the 3-minute single.
Right.
It's meant for CDs, MTV, and commercial radio.
Yeah.
To work in those mediums, it relies on a very strict acoustic psychology.
Like a formula.
Exactly. An A melody to catch your attention, a B melody to build the tension, and then a massive explosive chorus to release it. It's engineered for instant gratification.
Right, because on the radio, you have to get to the hook as fast as humanly possible before the listener gets bored and changes the station.
But flip over to the other side, club culture.
Okay.
Club culture is entirely DJ-driven.
Yeah.
And a DJ in an underground club does not want a 3-minute pop song.
No, of course not.
They are looking for long plays. They want minimal, subtle sonic changes over time. Their goal is an unbroken, continuous groove meant to keep people locked in a hypnotic state for an all-night party.
Right.
If a DJ is building a deep, rolling groove, and suddenly a massive 3-minute pop chorus explodes out of the speakers, it breaks the trance. It ruins the flow of the set.
Okay, here's how I'm visualizing this.
Okay, let's hear it.
It's like traveling overseas with electronics. You have a universal power adapter.
Hmm.
The radio station is a standard low-voltage wall outlet. It only accepts that quick 3-minute pop format plug. That's what fits into the broadcast system.
Right.
But the DJ in the club is dealing with a massive high-voltage industrial sound system. If you just plug the radio edit directly into the club system, it blows a fuse. The energy drops, the crowd stops dancing, the set is ruined.
The 12-inch remix is your transformer block in that analogy.
Oh.
Those adapters, the 12-inch expanded mixes, the DJ edits, the dub mixes, they were the vital bridge between these two opposing forces.
Makes sense.
The 12-inch remix takes that core voltage, the massive melodic hook, and fundamentally restructures it. It strips away the verse vocals to let the bass line breathe.
Okay.
It extends the percussion intro and outro, giving the DJ a 2-minute instrumental runway to beat match the track with the next song.
Right, so it blends seamlessly.
Exactly. It allows the commercial hit to retain its core identity, its memorable hook, while functioning perfectly on a physical dance floor.
But this implies there was a middleman. You couldn't just have producers throwing remixes into the void. Somebody had to actually curate this collision of worlds.
Right.
And this is where the source dives into the vital role of mixed CD culture.
Yes. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the curators of those mixed CDs were the unsung heroes of the era. Think of legendary figures mentioned in the text like Pete Tong, Paul Oakenfold, and DJ Bobo.
Legends.
Essentially acted as the Eurofilter. They weren't just lazily slapping top 40 Billboard hits onto a compilation CD. They were digging through the crates, finding the right underground dubs, the extended 12-inch mixes, and sequencing them. They took highly commercial tracks and injected them with genuine underground club sensibilities.
So they were cultural translators.
Precisely.
They spoke the language of the mainstream pop consumer who bought CDs at the mall, but they also spoke the gritty, technical language of the underground raver.
They bridged the divide perfectly. And this cultural translation culminated beautifully in the late 1990s with the rise of Eurotrance.
Oh, this is the era where the worlds completely merge, isn't it?
Completely.
Yeah.
Artists like ATB, Fragma, and Darude figured out how to sew the pop and club worlds together seamlessly within the original tracks themselves.
Wow.
They took the soaring, immediate, radio-friendly melodies of Eurodance and laid them directly over the relentless, driving, hypnotic rhythms of underground trance.
It's brilliant.
It was the ultimate synthesis of mass media and underground culture.
Okay, let's zoom out for a second. Because we've tracked this musical DNA from late 80s European radio through the visual boom of MTV into Japanese para commercials, down into the heavy German warehouse raves, and explored the technical wizardry of the 12-inch remix.
It's been quite a journey.
It's an incredible journey, but here is the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
All of this happened 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So what does this all mean for us now? Why are we sitting here looking at these MMR notes today in 2026?
We're looking at it because the cycle is actively repeating itself.
Really?
Oh, yeah. If you look at the musical landscape of the 2020s, there has been a massive, undeniable resurgence of 90s Euro music on platforms like TikTok, YouTube Shorts, and Instagram Reels.
That's so true.
And it's critical to understand that this isn't just blind, ironic nostalgia. There's a deeply rooted structural reason why this specific genre is thriving in the algorithmic age.
Let's dissect that algorithm connection. What makes a 90s Euro hook work so perfectly on a modern phone screen?
Well, think about the acoustic structure of a Euro music hook that we asked earlier. It is highly melodic, incredibly clear, and structurally direct. It was engineered by producers like Tommy Schley and David Brandes to hook a radio listener in a fraction of a second.
Right.
Now compare that to the audio constraints of a 15-second TikTok video.
Oh, wow.
You're scrolling rapidly. You don't have the patience for a subtle 45-second acoustic guitar buildup.
You just swipe right past it.
Exactly. You need a sound that cuts through the noise immediately. A 90s Euro synth hook is essentially an auditory neon sign.
That's a great image.
It's a pure, mathematically precise waveform that hits your brain's pleasure centers almost instantly. The structural DNA of 1994 Eurodance perfectly matches the instant listening culture of the 2020s.
That is absolutely wild to think about.
Mm-hmm.
They accidentally engineered the perfect high-engagement audio format for social media 30 years before social media even existed.
The architecture was already there, just waiting for the technology to catch up.
Yeah.
And it's not just happening in the digital space online, either. Modern club producers and DJs are actively utilizing that 90s rave feel as foundational sampling sources for new tracks.
Like at live events.
Yeah. When you go to massive modern open-air festivals today, that 90s Euro sound provides a nostalgic yet highly functional energy.
Right.
The heavy kick drums and pulsing bass lines still work on a physical dance floor, commanding the crowd just as effectively as they did at May Day in 1995.
It's proof of the engineering.
Exactly.
The same heavy underbelly that powered an illegal warehouse rave 30 years ago is now powering a sanctioned festival in 2026. And the same sugary hook that sold CDs on MTV is now driving millions of views on TikTok.
Which brings us to the core thesis of the Monumental Movement Records column.
Right.
Euromusic's true value, its enduring genius, was that it constantly balanced on the boundary.
It never committed to just one side.
Exactly.
Okay.
It refused to pick a side. It lived exactly on the razor's edge between mass media broadcasting and underground clubbing, between sweet melody and punishing rhythm, between the commercial pop system and raw physical release. The article makes this brilliant point that to truly understand this genre, listening to it on the radio during your afternoon commute and then going out and sweating to a 12-inch dub mix of it in a club at 2 a.m. was actually the most correct way to consume it.
Why?
It wasn't one or the other. It was both.
It was designed to be a full-day, full-body experience.
Absolutely.
So the next time you are scrolling through your feed and you hear a massive, undeniably catchy 90s dance hook pumping out of a 15-second video, or, you throw on a retro high-energy playlist at the gym, do not just dismiss it as shallow throwaway pop.
Please don't.
You are listening to a masterclass in cultural engineering. You are listening to a highly calibrated universal adapter that successfully bridged the impossible gap between the suburban living room and the underground rave.
And that leaves us with a really fascinating thought to take away from all of this.
What's that?
Well, if the clear, direct melodies of 90s Euro music accidentally anticipated the instant listening culture of today's social media algorithms over 3 decades in advance, what critically dismissed, seemingly throwaway pop trend happening right now is secretly writing the acoustic blueprint for the club culture of the 2050s.
That is a brilliant question, and definitely something to keep an ear out for the next time you catch yourself tapping your foot to a song you claim to hate. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the source material.
Until next time, keep listening closely.